Hello, everyone. I'm carnivore coach Parveen, hosting for Rivero Success Story podcast, where we explore the question, how has the carnivore diet changed your life? Today, I would like to welcome John. John has lost weight, reduced his A1C to a healthy range, improved sleep, reversed his digestive problems, and so much more on a carnivore lifestyle. Well, welcome, John.
Hi, Parveen. Good to be with you.
Glad you could make it today. So let's get started. And could you share a little bit about your background and what health conditions did you have before you started the carnivore diet?
So twice in my life, I've weighed over 300 pounds. And that was, could be very, very serious issues. 2001, I'd always been fairly athletic to really athletic. And 2001, I was 43 years old, and I did a thing called the Body for Life competition. And now, full disclosure, I did that as a vegan, but for some personal relationship reasons, not because I wanted to save chickens and cows and things like that. But it taught me a ton about, the base of nutrition. And what I liked about it was the discipline of not being able to go eat anything anywhere you wanted. But I lost 60 pounds in 12 weeks. I was working out like a maniac. And greatly reduced my body fat, blood pressure, all that stuff. And was still taking in about 200 grams of protein a day and fish oil, vitamin, omega-3 oils. But after about 18, so I finished in the top, what was it, 20% out of 275,000 people. And about 18 months of following that program of, and staying vegan, I felt like crap. I felt brittle. I didn't even want to work out. It hurt to move my arms and my legs. It just, everything hurt. And I'm like, man, and everybody would say, wow, you're in great shape. You look wonderful nowadays. And I'm like, man, I feel like I've been hit by a freaking truck. Anyway, so I went off happily off the vegan diet, because there was not a time where smelling a hamburger or a steak or even pizza did not smell good to me. But I started learning a lot about what's in food. What are carbohydrates? What are real proteins? What makes up our essential amino acids? All of these things, and it made me realize how much crap there is out there as far as nutrition. So anyway, fast forward about 12 years, I started my own training business. I started training in 2001 and started my own training business with two other partners. That was kind of like having two bad marriages at the same time. Was working late, eating late, and started to prove evidence-based science that eating late, even healthy food, and going to sleep, like falling asleep in your plate, can completely destroy your metabolism and your fat-burning metabolism. So I put on about 45 pounds in about 9 months, trained every day, and moved my business and started to feel some pain in my left knee. And it was probably, I never got an MRI, it was probably somewhat of a torn meniscus. But they also said that, I had virtually no joint in my left hip. So 2014, I'm about 280 pounds. I go through a hip replacement, and I was still in my gym, struggling to train, but fighting a good fight, trying to, do the missionary work. The hip replacement was a success. Pretty humbling experience as far as having to use a walker, but not to walk with pain. My cholesterol and my triglycerides, HDL, LDL, had never really been a big problem. But my A1C and my fasting glucose and my average glucose. After my surgery in 2014 for my hip replacement, started going back up. And then I started experiencing, because I've just beat the crap out of my body, I guess, over the last 60 billion years, some severe pain in my left leg, and it wasn't from my hip replacement. And it was the kind of pain where you want to throw up from. And so I got diagnosed, and they said I had severe spinal stenosis in my L4. And there were all these things that were associated with that. So, and I was eating basically what I like to call human food, meats, vegetables, lots of salads. Fruits would be oranges or grapefruit, because I understood early on that there's almost every fruit has a high concentration of sugar, and that's something that we should stay away from. No matter how healthy we think fruits are, we're not always getting the benefit of what we're putting down our throat. So anyway, I was just in severe inflammatory pain, and so my back never hurt, but my left leg was just on fire all the time. And one of the people that I followed in many videos when I first started in CrossFit back in 2008, 2010, had some posts on Instagram, and then I found out that he had an interview on Joe Rogan. And he talked about, he was in the military and he had been injured. He was actually shot, I think, in Iraq, and it injured his left hip. And he had a lot of the same symptoms that I had, severe nerve pain, blah, 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 blah. So I corresponded with him a little bit. Anyway, fast forward to that, I was looking at more Joe Rogan videos, and I saw one of Michaela Peterson. It says, this girl only eats steak. And I'm like, wow, that sounds good. Through what I've studied through nutrition and everything like that, it should always be an open book, that there's always pages to turn. And a lot of the pages to turn need to be torn out and burned. But that, there are societies in this world that only eat meat. The Inuit Indians, the people who live up in the Aleutians, the people that live in the South Pacific Islands, they don't have strawberries and berries and granola and avocado toast, but they eat what's in front of them, and they have to work hard to have meals. So I understood that a lot of civilizations in this world to this day thrive on just meat, what they can get their hands on. And part of my ancestry is American Indian, and the Plains Indians used to thrive on buffalo. Back then there was not a lot of notes about they were a weak, feeble tribes. They were very, very stout people. Anyway, and they survived on buffalo and salmon, and they would have berries and things like that in the spring, but they would, the food chain wasn't available 24/7. So anyway, I scheduled my spinal surgery, and at that point, I was just in pain all the time. And that high inflammatory state increases your metabolic fat burn or fat storing. So even if you're eating healthy, you're still, because of that high inflammation and high inflammatory state, increases your body to store fat. It just screws up your metabolism. Anyway, so my A1C was way up there. It was, according to my doctors, it was at 6 and 6.1. My blood sugars were about 120. They weren't too bad, but I was used to being in the 90s to high 90s. Anyway, cholesterol and triglycerides still were all good. And I was weighing between about 296 to 303 pounds. And I took a picture on the scale when it was at 296, because most of the time when I would get on the scale, it was 300, 303, and I'd be all pissed off, and I'm not taking a picture. So finally, about a few weeks before my surgery, I took a picture of the scale, and it was 296. Anyway, that would be 296 pounds. It was too many. So I went in, I had 5.5 hours of back surgery. And
Wow.
these people were amazing. I woke up about 3 or 4 hours later. I woke up right away, but about 3 or 4 hours later, I was able to take my first steps without searing pain in like 3 years. So I became a big fan of metal parts in the body if you need them. And I've had conversations since then that, you know, some of the damage isn't as, in my other joints, aren't as severe. They're starting to regress. And that's nutrition based. It's keeping the inflammation down. Anyway, so I had and at the end, so my surgery was in February. In March of 2019, I had my blood work done again. And let's see. So I wanted to make sure when I started all this, I had a lot of solid information. So my A1C is supposed to be 5.6 or less. My A1C was 5.6. My glucose, so also my sleep was just horrible. And after my surgery, without all the nerve pain gone, I was sleeping, not always a lot, but maybe like 4, 5, 6 hours, but I was waking up rested, you know. And so that's a really, really important thing. More sleep and good sleep is good and better, but how do you feel when you wake up? Do you feel like, you know, your eyes are bloodshot, you know, you're 21 years old, it's New Year's Day again, or, you know, or do you feel rested and ready for the day? So my sleep was greatly improved, and that just evolves into a lot of other health benefits. So my glucose is supposed to be between 85 and 126. My glucose was 114. My cholesterol has always been good, 102. My triglycerides, 52. Those are pretty damn good numbers. HDL 37, which is a little on the low side. My LDL is 55, which people are amazed with. Anyway, so after my recovery, I was eating super, super healthy. You know, well, I would say keto, paleo. I would prefer to say healthy human food. Even though so many people, you know, oh, paleo is just a fad, you know, even though Paleolithic was 20,000 years ago, now it's not much of a fad, it's just facts. Keto, it's another fad diet, you know, it's Atkins reskin, which is total BS. The keto diet came from, I think, Mark Hopkins or the Mayo Clinic, of doctors studying epileptics and children that were just literally shaking to death from epileptic seizures, and they started modifying their diet to keep them in ketosis and became the keto diet. So something that's going to save your poor child's life, I would say, is healthy and sustainable. And to say that it's a fad diet or it's not, you know, a sustainable thing, you know, staying healthy and alive should always be sustainable. Anyway, so I ate really, really good. I did, full confession, I did have grains and starches one time in, I believe it was the end of April of 2019. And my wife and I had pizza, and I felt like crap. For about the last 2 years, leading into 2019, anytime that I had bread, grains, or a sandwich or anything like that, which was very, very rare, I literally felt like my muscles and my bones were rusted. That's the best way I can describe it. It was a bad reaction to something that is not human food. And so I believe it was August of 2019, I was watching Joe Rogan and I watched the Michaela Peterson video. And then she talked about this guy, ShawnBaker. He's this big buff guy and everything like that. You know, he's a doctor. So, and there's some awesome doctors in the world, and there's some that are full of you know what. So the fact that she said he was a doctor didn't really impress me, but the fact that, you know, how she was talking about him and what his food and lifestyle were. So I watched his video on Joe Rogan, and, you know, so everything, all my health trends were going in a good direction. I lost about, it's like 24 pounds after my surgery. So without exercising, just carrying my walker upstairs to my old gym and, you know, stretching and everything like that, I lost 24 pounds. So having to exercise to lose weight, you know, fitness and exercise are very, very important for our bodies. But to lose weight and to be healthy, it's also what's on our plate and what's on our fork. So I was feeling a lot better, pretty well recovered, but my digestion was horrible and had been not that great for a long time. One of my favorite meals was to have a big salad with chopped up hamburger or salmon, or, you know, and so I love vegetables to this day, but I used to like cocaine and beer too, but I got to stay away from that stuff. I've been clean and sober, by the way, since 1986. So there's a lot of parallels in drugs and alcohol and food. So my digestion was one of the things that had, you know, come to the priority list of what I could do to, you know, maintain my path and progress to the best health I can be in. And so I started looking at all the information about the carnivore diet. So in September 2019, I started the carnivore diet at 275 pounds. And I went into 2019 between 296 and 303. And then after my surgery, I was down over the summer to 297. And then when I stopped using my walker in July, beginning of July, to September, I lost maybe another 5 or 6 pounds. But my digestion was really becoming a priority of concern. I would have a salad, you know, some healthy protein, things like that, and be running to the bathroom 15, 20 minutes later. And that was not a lot of fun, especially if you're busy.
Yeah. That's not
I got to go somewhere, I got to do something, you know, and, you know, it was becoming more and more problematic. So I feel this is, you know, something I can't prove, but as certain health issues resolve, other ones that still remain that might have been low grade become more and more severe or more accented. Same with, you know, body pain and joint degradation and things like that. So September 9th, 2019, I started carnivore. 1 month later, I was down from 275 to 263. And so that carnivore was beef, chicken, fish, lots of pork, bacon, and I did have avocado and I did have olives to keep up my fat, but no other plants. And that seemed to be okay, and eggs. And then I was watching a video from Dr. Kendi Berry.
Yeah, I'm familiar with him. Yeah.
He said that, you know, eggs can be problematic too. And he's gone through, you know, a history of digestion issues and things like that. And so my focus, my priority was not, you know, how much weight I was losing, but I was feeling better. I was sleeping great. But my digestion was still something that I wanted to improve or you know, completely change. And that improved, I would say, within about the first 3 weeks. And then I continued carnivore, mostly just meats. You know, maybe 3 or 4 days a week I would have avocados or olives with my meal, just so I wanted to get my fat up. And I was taking in a lot of food, still am. So according to all of these parameters, if you look at, you know, some of the weight loss programs, I should be 400 pounds, you know, and I should have my chest laid open to have open heart surgery, you know, and I should be on the ground, you know, waiting for the paddles to restart my heart. And I continue to lose weight. Right now, I stay around 240 to about 246 pounds. I probably want to make some minor adjustments on, you know, my schedule and my nighttime sleep and things like that, and my ending meals. That I probably should be down maybe about 220, another 20, 25 pounds. Under 220, I just don't feel that good.
How tall are you?
I'm 6 foot.
Okay.
I guess that matters too.
Well, yeah.
I'm 4'9". Yeah. So, and you know, following you and all these people in the community is just an awesome experience. So I followed through all this. I stopped eating eggs probably in March of 2020. You know, eating carnivore, lots of butter and things like that. Oh, so I made sure I had statistical information on my blood work before I started carnivore.
Yeah, I did that too. That's a good plan.
And so I had an appointment with my doctor in the middle of November of 2019. And I was going to get my blood work done like the week before that. So convinced about, not convinced, but knowing the science of fat and animal fat and, you know, heart clogging cholesterol and all this other crap that you hear, I was convinced that was bullshit, and I was supremely confident how I was feeling and what my numbers would be. So I like doubled up on fat. About 2 weeks going into my blood test, I added probably a quarter stick of butter to every meal. And I was probably at maybe 3,000 calories a day, and at least 50% of those calories are fat. Butter, fatty meats, bacon, all of that stuff. And my blood work came back, you know, according to the experts at Modern Wisdom, you know, my cholesterol should have been a 6-figure number, but you know, it was virtually unchanged. My A1C was still down, glucose, all of those numbers. I have slides if anybody wants to doubt me, you know, but you know, they're super fine. Now, I did find out about a guy named Dave Feldman cholesterol code, that some people respond to higher levels of cholesterol, which I thought was awesome, that it's just a metabolic state, that these people would be in 400s and then be in the normal range at some point in the day. So they had some kind of monitors, and this guy, his living room probably looks like a clinic. It's got, you know, monitoring machines and things like that. But in my training experience with my clients and things like that, people have done keto and lost 20, 30 pounds. They feel great. The doctor says, oh, all this is great, except your cholesterol is now high. You know, and then they're, oh my God, my cholesterol, you know, and then stop, and they lost 20 pounds, they gained 30, you know. So this sustainable eating healthy needs to be a message that, you know, we need to be tough about just cutting through the bullshit and you know, all forms of media and everything like that, that these perceptions are killing people. or, greatly degrading the longevity of their health. And I can't count the people that, oh, I did keto, I did paleo, I did this, and this, and my cholesterol went up. And, if you're healthy and you feel good, that should be also a consideration of indicators. But anyway, so in 2021, still pandemic, I live in the strictest county in the country, in Silicon Valley, for lockdowns and mandates, and it's great for small businesses. But anyway, I think there was a challenge. It might have been January. I don't remember what, but anyways, there was a challenge to do all beef, and I said, sure, why not? And my digestion right now is probably about 90% of what I think would be perfectly healthy. My digestion went from like maybe 70-75% to about pretty close to where it is right now. And I'm pretty sure it was some reactions to chicken, and so I'd stopped eggs before that. Every now and then I'll have salmon and things like that, but everybody's different. But for me, my goal is to continue to keep my metabolic health really, really healthy, and then improve my digestion. And what I've learned from awesome people like you and the rest of the crew is our digestive and gut health is the pathway to everything else. What we're ingesting, either works or, can be, neutralized or be turned into something, almost a negative effect. And just because we're ingesting something doesn't mean that our body's metabolizing it and absorbing it. So I played around with all this stuff. And I still drank coffee, still do to this day. And in the back of my mind, I go, well, this is probably something that's going to have to be on the hit list. Even if I like it,
You kind of have to try it and see how you feel without it. And then, I did that because I had to give up tea. I was always a tea drinker. And because of oxalates, I had to give up tea. So I picked up coffee in the last 2 years. And then I just stopped. And I don't feel any different. I do feel like I sleep better. But I don't feel like, there's nothing that was, dominantly.
Everybody's different. So, I think, would coffee be a benefit to stopping coffee? Would that be a benefit? Yeah, absolutely. I've cut down.
It's good because it's addictive, right? And you don't want to have things that are going to cause you a headache when you give it up, or you don't feel well.
Yeah, so that's the thing. Like if I, for some reason, don't get coffee until like noon or something like that, I feel kind of headachy and nauseous later on that day.
Yeah.
And that's a proven metabolic reaction to coffee and caffeine. Is that a good thing? Probably not. So I found this stuff that neutralizes the pH that you sprinkle in your coffee, and that's helped a lot. So all these things are building blocks to improving my digestion and things like that. Through carnivore, my energy levels are a lot better. My mobility, things like that. I'm going through some nerve reactions from the back surgery, which are pretty much to be expected. And those are just, physical things that you need to work through. But, if you have things that are broken, like if you have a hole in your tire in your car, replace it, get it fixed. Don't, like, I went on YouTube to see about spinal stenosis, and this guy was a chiropractor, and he looked like he should be selling pot out of a van or something like that. He goes, well, we're going to do these stretches. It's going to relieve, it'll allow people to walk again and everything like that. And the movements that he was demonstrating and trying to do were like the movements and positions that would put me in the hospital screaming. I'm like, there's no way I can move like that. That's exactly what makes me hurt. So, you know, I think in mild cases, a lot of therapy and things like that are really, really good. But, you know, my spinal column was crushed about 80%. And 5 hours of surgery, they took out the disc, they cleaned up a whole bunch of bone spurs, cleaned up the other disc, and they put these screws in my L4, my L5, and then screwed rods into them. And they take this spreader that brings them to the distance that they want. So I came out about an 1/8 of an inch taller. And, you know, it feels fine, like the flexibility and everything like that. So if you have, you know, severe problems, you know, trust a good doctor to make them, you know, eating healthy, exercise, all that stuff is really, really important. When you have something severely broken, you know, my recommendation would be, you know, if you need to get a couple of opinions, but it's not something you're going to walk off. But anyway, so it was the changes that I had always been looking for. I mean, I you know, like I said, I've been over 300 pounds twice in my life, and been very successful at reducing my weight and, you know, bringing back a healthy level of health and fitness. But the first time I lost that amount of weight as a vegan was not a success as far as how I felt and what I was doing to my body. And I'm sure that, you know, I would make protein shakes that were about 600 calories, you know, a whole package of tofu, big scoops of soy protein. And I'm pretty convinced that a lot of that was an onset to some of my continued digestive problems that started to evolve about 8 to 10 years later.
So what does it look like? What do you eat now largely? What does a meal look like for you?
So I try and eat between 1.5. So tracking, measuring, all that stuff, you know, if you invent the wheel, don't reinvent it. It's so simple. I eat about 1.5 to 2 pounds of beef a day, mostly hamburgers, tri-tip. I eat bacon, a lot of butter, and I do follow Judy Cho, Nutrition with Judy, and I read a lot of information about tolerances to dairy and intolerances to dairy. So I hadn't done dairy forever, and it just you know, thinking about cheese just kind of made my stomach start flipping. But she said that there's some digestive values with it, and that what would be least evasive or most tolerant would be like the hard aged cheese, like Parmesan, a couple others that I can't pronounce, and like hard sharp cheddar cheese.
Yeah, the hard cheeses are better.
I started carefully introducing Parmesan cheese onto my meat and things like that. And I was shocked that it was easily digested and tolerated with no side effects or anything like that. So I do have cheese, you know, probably at least one meal. I try to eat 3 times a day. So before carnivore, I heard a lot of people talking about, oh, you got to fast, you got to do this, you got to do that. And all of that's fine. The problem I have with fasting is, with the exception of our team, you know, it's what you eat, you know, but the human psychology is, oh, I'm going to go fast because it's easy. It's a lot easier for a human to deal with a clock and a calendar than it is to take a look at what's in your refrigerator and what you're putting on your plate. And most of the messages are, it's not important what you eat, it's important when you eat. And that's completely wrong. I've had people in my gym that have lost like 4 to 6 pounds doing fasting. So all they do is they skip breakfast. And most people here in the tech world get free food at the, you know, the tech companies.
Did you just say fairy food?
Fairy food, I said free food, but
Free food, okay.
yeah, it should be slash and the other. But, you know, it's like I have my organic granola with some raw honey, and I put Greek yogurt on it, and I sprinkle blah, 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 blah. And then I have, you know, dinner at 6 o'clock, and I eat between 12 and 1 o'clock. So they have this window that they want to eat in. So some people actually did lose a little bit of weight, but then they stayed on it for about 6 weeks. They said after about 3 weeks, they started putting weight on. So they lost 4 pounds, they put back 6. They lost 6 pounds, they put back 8 or 10. So what we eat, whether we are on, you know, 1 meal, 2 meals, 3 meals a day, or fasting, you know, what we eat is critically important. And all of these messages to the contrary, these people should be ashamed of themselves. Anyway, so I had my blood work done just recently. All the numbers are basically the same or a little better. Curiously enough, I've been getting hounded by one of the pharmacists about going in for to talk to them about being put on statins. And I would talk to my doctor. I made an appointment. I said, here's my cholesterol, here's my triglycerides, here's my HDL, here's my LDL, okay, and all the, you know, my white blood count, everything. And these days, our immune system apparently is more important than ever. So I said, you know, how do these numbers rate? She goes, they're really, really good. I said, okay, in the general population, how do they rate? She goes, you know, probably the top 20, 15%. I said, okay, how about a guy that's 63 years old? She goes, 90, 95%, you know, they're almost perfect. I go, so why am I getting messages to come in to be interviewed to start taking statins? I go, what is the cause? She goes, you know, that's a really good question. It's a really good question. And she goes, the only thing I can think of is that just the fact that you're 63 years old. So it doesn't matter how good all this other stuff is. These parameters are set by medical industries. Yes, if you're this age, you got to start taking this stuff. You got to start taking this stuff. If you have this, don't worry about what's causing it. Take this stuff, you know. And so I will be thrown in front of a train before they put me on statins.
Yeah. Well, your story is very impressive. I'm glad this is really helping you in so many ways. So as a member of Rivero, can you share any value that Rivero has brought to you or your family?
It's 1,000% true and honest. The community is just an awesome group of people, from young athletic people to young people that their health has been a train wreck, and they have completely changed the things around how happy they are of that eating lifestyle. They're not starving. They're not sitting at a table with everybody, oh, I just wish I had a little piece of cheesecake or something like that. You know, a small portion of a bad choice is still a bad choice. And, you know, our mentality is that, you know, we are evidence-based, proven science of what the body needs to be optimal and thrive. There's a lot of people that, you know, there's this main line, and then there's gray areas because everybody's different. I tried this, and, you know, too much salt made this happen, or I did this, and, you know, I started sneezing a lot, or whatever. So, but the core of everything is true and honest. And if I'm as dumb as that medicine ball behind me, but you can laugh, it's all right. People, they talk about, you know, historically, blah, 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 blah. And what history are you talking about? Like last week? you know, if you look at how we evolved on this planet and where we evolved, you know, we used to have to work our ass off and go out and kill stuff just to survive. And we didn't always go to our grocery store. I live in California. It's November. You can buy bananas and strawberries. Pretty sure that's not natural. But, you know, how we evolved, how we ate, how that affected our ability to thrive as humans and become the dominant species on this planet, sort of, at least the women anyway, you know, is proven science. I mean, that's just history and science. This is how things are. People have a different idea and want to say things about, you know, well, you know, eating all that meat's not natural, blah, 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 blah. We didn't even start growing food until 10,000 years ago. So before that, what did we do? No avocado toast.
Exactly.
And so the community, anybody you speak to, I'm 1,000% confident, anybody you speak to is going to have the true and honest message, and there may be some variables for each person's individual, you know, circumstance and things like that. But you know, it's the human information, what we need to thrive with nutrition and improving our health, and just, you know, not be dependent on drugs. You know, just because our doctor, and their doctors are great. They've saved my life several times in the last many years, but they're victims of their education system. And some of that, a lot of it is awesome, super smart, great people. Some of them not. There's a few that, can we mention names?
Probably not. Good idea.
Well, they're on YouTube. Anyway, so, you know, they're trying to help, but the pharmacy industry and things like that just distort everything. And when, you know, if you hear something from somebody like Steak and Butter Girl, this awesome looking girl, beautiful skin, strong, healthy, she had a video talking about salt. She needs to cut back salt. So the only thing I would have changed in that is that, you know, this is what I had happening, and this is the change I made. You know, that's not everybody. We need a lot, the human body needs a lot of sodium. So maybe for whatever reason, you know, the mesh of her DNA was absorbing a lot of it, or something, but, you know, or, you know, something I can't speak about, menstrual cramps, never had it. But, you know, male issues, I mean, all of this stuff are things that should thrive for humans to, you know, just evolution. What's strong survives.
Yeah.
And what we eat keeps us strong, keeps us thriving. And, you know, I'm sure some people struggle with, you know, to this day, tomatoes, I love tomatoes. Salads, zucchini, broccoli, asparagus with wrapped in it, it's awesome. But, you know, is that something I should be eating? Is that something that was causing a problem? Yes, absolutely. You know, and there's a segment of foods called nightshades that are very disruptive to people's, you know, health and metabolism. And a lot of people have low-grade reactions to these things that don't even realize it. Some people have severe reactions. But to look at what really needs to be healthy and to maximize that, you know, is a path we should all walk on.
Well, thank you so much, John. You have shared a wealth of information, and I'm sure a lot of viewers will learn from your experience and hopefully give the carnivore diet a try. Well, thank you very much, and have a good night. It was really nice to meet you.
Harvey, absolute pleasure meeting you. Take care.
Bye.
Join Rivero.health for a 30-day free trial to get access to live Q&A with VIP guests, social community meetings, member discounts, low-carb healthcare providers list, forum, workouts, monthly challenges, early access to podcasts, recipes, carnivore diet guide, fasting guide, shred guide, and much more.